I will never forget that unmistakable rhythm of those piano keys. The mysterious tone it gives off as they build up to this drop that lets the viewer know they're about to witness the supernatural and unknown. As the briefcase busts open, the stories of R.L.Stine are released upon a small, quiet town. A haunting letter G makes its way through the streets of the city, affecting and possessing everything it encounters. This entity then floats towards the front door of a typical household, representing that the stories of R.L.Stine are entering your home. We're then left with a warning stating,
"You will beware, you're in for a scare."
While Goosebumps is no masterpiece of a TV show by any means, the memories and excitement this show brought me as a child is indescribable. Not to mention the influence this show had on my early life and how it planted the seed for my love of filmmaking and my fascination with horror. Goosebumps was a made-for-kids TV show that were based on books written by R.L.Stine. The show first aired on October 27th, 1995 and lasted until November 16th, 1998, consisting of 74 episodes. Every episode lasted between 21 and 22 minutes, except the 12 specials that lasted between 22 and 26 minutes. Now, don't get it twisted. Although these books were written for kids, and the TV show is aimed at kids, these stories often told horrifying tales involving ghosts, monsters, and supernatural events. The books were not afraid to involve death, and in many stories, the characters would be eaten, forgotten about, and in a few cases, just straight up killed. And yes, even sometimes, kids would die. Now, in the books and the show, these deaths were never gruesome or violent. It would often allude to a character being killed instead of actually showing it on screen. Take, for instance, this scene from The Werewolf of Fever Swamp.
The way you took mine! Dear. Run, boy! Look out!
On top of all this, most episodes had a sort of comedic theme. Goosebumps wasn't necessarily meant to be taken super seriously. At the end of every story, there was always some type of twist. Sometimes the twist would be an innocent twist, like when the mean and nasty next-door neighbor, who only cares about his garden, is turned into a lawn gnome. But other times, it wasn't so innocent. Like when a whole family is sitting down for breakfast, just as they had thought to have put an end to the scarecrows that had been attacking them. Instead, they hear the sound of Grandpa's combine starting up, and as they look out the window, they see a scarecrow driving it right towards them. And then the episode just ends. It just ends. As a kid, I always imagined that this combine was just gonna bust through the house and just eat them up, chew them up. Of course, they could have survived, but it's alluding to something more frightening. This is one of the many reasons why Goosebumps was so terrifying to me as a young child. You would sit through an entire episode, often coming to care for these characters, as they figured out how to put a stop to whatever type of force is terrorizing them. As they finally resolve the situation and start to believe everything is back to normal, you are then left with a scene that tells you, in fact, nothing will ever be the same again. It was this idea that when something evil enters your life, even if you find a way to defeat it, your life will forever be affected by it. I was first exposed to Goosebumps when I was around the age of 4 or 5. My mother would read a few chapters from one of the many books we came to collect over time, almost every night. I distinctly remember being on edge as she read out these pages, my mind imagining myself in the same situation that the characters are in. It was frightening, horrifying, but also thrilling. I became so excited to get scared. Some of my favorite books included Ghost Beach, The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, The Cuckoo Clock of Doom, and my all-time favorite, How to Kill a Monster. I freaking love this book. When it came to the TV show, I distinctly remember loving Stay Out of the Basement, Welcome to Dead House, The Werewolf of Fever Swamp, and probably my all-time favorite, Night of the Living Dummy Part 3, which featured the Dark Lord himself, Hayden Christensen, in one of his first debuts. However, one episode shook me to my core. You might say it sent a chill down my spine. It left me up at night, looking through my window, just waiting for something to try to open it. This episode was Werewolf Skins, and today I'm going to give you an in-depth recap and review of this episode, throwing in reasons why I think it is one of the more chilling episodes in the Goosebumps series. So let's take a look at it. The episode aired November 22nd, 1997, just a few weeks after my birthday, and starts off with the sound of a howling wolf and some southern backwoods type instruments playing softly in the background. We are then introduced to our main character, Alex, who has just been dropped off at a run-down gas station in the middle of the night by a bus driver who looks strangely familiar to Harry from Home Alone. It's made clear from the start that Alex won't take crap from anyone, especially Harry.
Have some kind of schedule to keep?
You'll be all right, kid. Sun should be coming out. Eventually. Have a nice night.
The atmosphere throughout the show is unnerving and spooky. It looks natural and dirty, as if he was truly dropped off in some middle-of-nowhere town. Alex will be staying with his aunt and uncle for an entire month in the town of Wolf Creek, while his parents go on a business trip to Europe. He is a fan of a magazine named Chiller Magazines. The current one he is reading advertises a photo contest that will pay $1,000 to the person who can send in the creepiest photo they can get. Alex is new to photography, but is determined to win that money. Alex ends up falling asleep on the gas station bench since his uncle never showed up. I would have been pissed. The next morning, his uncle soon arrives and apologizes for being late, claiming that the Jeep has been acting up. Pfft, yeah, okay.
Sorry I'm late. Jeep's been acting up lately. So, your birthday present still working?
Yeah, I was wondering if you and Aunt Marta could take me on one of your shoots. You know, give me a couple tips or something.
Yeah, not much to it, just point and snap.
We are informed that Alex's camera was given to him for his birthday by his aunt and uncle, who are professional photographers that focus mainly on animals and nature. After taking a reckless shortcut through the woods, Alex arrives at his aunt and uncle's house, where we meet Aunt Marta.
How big you're getting? Are you 8 feet tall now?
Aunt Marta and Uncle Collins are both very friendly and loving people. I always enjoy the joking attitude of Uncle Collins. Not to mention, for some reason, I always remembered the cow-like seat covers the Jeep had on. I don't know, maybe it's just because they seem so unnatural. Alex excitedly tells his aunt that he is entering the Chiller Magazine's contest and needs to capture a photo of something scary.
And what kind of pictures are they looking for, as if I have to ask?
Something scary. It's supposed to make the reader shudder.
Sadly, Aunt Marta tells Alex that Wolf Creek isn't the scariest of places, and there's not a whole lot going on around here. Now, obviously that's a lie, because they're in a freaking Goosebumps episode. Alex then asks about the rundown house next door, implying that that place is pretty creepy looking. Uncle Colin tells Alex that that place is the Marlings' house, and that he should just stay away from them, because they're crazy. His aunt agrees and adds he should just leave them alone. Alex, however, is intrigued. He feels he would be able to get some chilling photos inside there. This episode does a great job at building up the suspense and mystery surrounding the Marling house. Even the house itself isn't designed to look like some menacing, unrealistic haunted house. It's just some rundown, creepy home that would fit right into any typical neighborhood. Anxious to capture chilling photos, he can't help but to take pictures of the Marling house. As he does so, we see a figure watching him from inside the house. It's small things like this that I enjoy so much about this episode. Much of it is show, don't tell. I'm sure you've heard many other movie reviewers or film critics talk about this idea. I believe it is more effective to build up tension and leave the viewer guessing, rather than throwing in a cliche jump scare every 5 minutes. It makes you use your own imagination about what might be happening, and if I'm being honest, your own imagination is often what scares you the most. With money on his mind, Alex wanders into the woods, snapping photos of trees in the sky. While looking through his viewfinder, he is caught off guard by the presence of a girl. Seeing that he was startled, she jokingly says,
Don't worry, I don't
Don't bite.
She introduces herself as Hannah Stoneman and is a girl that likes to be by herself, has never left the town of Wolf Creek, and doesn't really have any friends. Aww. The dialogue between these two feels natural and isn't anything super cringy. It comes across as you would think two kids having a conversation would sound like. After their short conversation, Hannah realizes the sun is going down and is in a rush to get home. Alex, a bit confused on why she is in such a hurry, asks her what the big deal is. She tells him the woods are not safe at night, and he jokes that must be when the monsters come out. Hannah is not amused and lets him know that she is serious.
Or something?
That's not funny, Alex.
Gee, it's just a joke.
As a kid, I always liked the character of Hannah. She seems like a nice girl, and I definitely thought she was kind of cute. With the moon rising and the sun setting, Alex tries to make his way back home, but soon gets lost. As he's trying to find his way back home, he starts hearing noises from beyond the bushes. We see a creepy, definitely not human hand pulling back the branches to spy on Alex. With some very misleading camera work, it's clear that Alex has seen something. I remember as a kid, this scene always confused me. The way it's shot, it looks as if something's running up right at Alex and is at his feet. But after the commercial break, it's as if he saw something from a distance. I don't know. He frantically runs through the woods, finding himself at the Marling's back door. Pounding at the door, hoping to God someone opens it. Aunt Marta then comes from behind and is frustrated with Alex that he was out in the woods at night. She is also mad that he was around the Marling house. He tries to explain, but she's not having it, and she's in a rush to get back home. His aunt and uncle had an important photo shoot tonight, from which Uncle Collins had already left for. Aunt Marta was extremely on edge and was angry with Alex, understandably to an extent.
Oh, Alex, I don't have time for all these questions, all right? I want you to get in that house and stay there. Is that understood?
She tells him to get inside the house and to stay there, reminding him to stay out of the basement. I mean woods. Sorry, wrong episode.
And stay out of the woods.
The next day, Alex is in school, which makes sense since he'll be there for an entire month. What do you know? On Alex's first day, the teacher is talking about legends and what they mean. Alex is called on and says,
Well, it's like a fairy tale. It's a lie that people believe in because they don't know the real reason for things.
That's very good, Alex.
That's very good, Alex.
The bully, whose name is Sean, adds that just because something's a legend doesn't mean it's not true. He gives the example of, you guessed it, a werewolf, which makes Alex laugh, but to his surprise, he's the only one laughing. It's as if the whole class is aware of something that he's not. One thing that I like about this scene is that it talks about the conventional werewolf tropes, but it adds its own spin to it. Sean continues by saying,
And you can only kill him with a silver bullet, right?
That's the part of the legend that's not true. What really happens is when the sun rises, the werewolf sheds its skin. And if someone finds that skin and destroys it before the next full moon is at its highest point, the curse is over.
So, according to this legend, the only way to kill a werewolf is to take its skin, which it sheds at the end of every night, and to destroy the skin before the next full moon is at its highest. If this is done, it's thought to have put an end to the curse. After class, Sean is a bit upset that Alex was laughing at his idea in werewolves, and tells Alex that he can prove to him that werewolves in fact do exist. Sean explains to Alex that behind the Marling house is a creek that the werewolves drink from at night. He tells Alex to meet him and his friend Arjun there tonight at midnight, and he will see the wolves for himself. Later in the day, Alex is walking on a bridge, and as Hannah appears out of literally nowhere, she stresses to him that it is a stupid decision to meet the guys later that night. Alex is still not convinced of the stories and is confident that he will be fine. He also does not want to look like a chicken in front of Sean and Arjun. 30 minutes till 12, Alex wakes up and prepares to head out. He is stopped in his tracks as he learns his aunt and uncle locked him in his room. He attempts to jump out the window just to find that they've been barred up as if he's in some prison. While inspecting the bars, he notices movement coming from inside the Marling house. What follows is one of, if not the creepiest, scariest scenes I'd ever seen as a 6-year-old kid. Looking through his viewfinder, he witnesses wolf-like creatures jumping out the window next door. Horrified, he tries to open his door again, but to no success. He returns to the window to see that the wolf creatures are gone and that the window next door has been shut. He feels as if he is just seeing things, but then...
Starting to see things too.
Watching this now as an adult, it's nowhere near as scary as it once was. I do admit, though, that it's definitely still creepy. I think what frightened me the most as a kid is how aggressively the wolves try to get in the room. They're growling and swiping at Alex, while also gnawing at the bars. Not to mention one of the wolves is wet around his neck area, as if he's been drooling or something. I just couldn't help but to imagine what would happen to Alex if they got in the room. Also, look at the authenticity of these costumes. They're very well done. And you have to keep in mind, this is no award-winning TV show or some big budget film. This is a made-for-kids TV show that are based on books that take around 3 hours to read. I mean, I think these costumes look better than a lot of what you would see in an actual werewolf movie, especially if they just use CGI for the wolf. Again, this is 1997 we're talking about. The next morning, Alex tries to explain to his aunt and uncle that the Marlings are werewolves and shows them the steel bars that have been bent. Surprised, Uncle Colin tries to rationalize it by saying,
It must have been a bear or something, a rabid fox.
Rabid fox. It wasn't a fox. I saw it. It was part animal, part human.
Alex tells them that Hannah has been saying the woods were dangerous, but now he knows why. A bit irritated, Aunt Marta tells Alex that Hannah's older brother was bitten by a wolf a year ago behind the Marling house. They say the wolf was never caught, and Hannah had spent weeks out there trying to find it.
The wolf was never caught, but Hannah has spent days out there trying to find it.
Yeah, that's why we locked you in. We couldn't risk having you wandering around in the woods.
Later that day, Alex meets up with Hannah, and he tells her that the Marlings are werewolves. She's shocked, but breaks at Alex that she has seen many werewolves, and that her brother ran away after being bitten because no one believed in what he was saying. Alex gets the idea in his head that he has a chance to make it big time. He wants to capture a photo of one of these werewolves and get it on the front page of Time magazines.
Alex, no!
In the middle of his fantasizing, he is caught off guard by a pissed off Sean and Arjun. Sean says Arjun was almost eaten alive by mosquitoes last night while waiting for Alex. Arjun also has cream or a bandage on his cheek, attempting to help his bug bites heal. Remember this for later. Alex tells the two about his encounter last night, and that's why he was not there. They obviously don't believe him, so he tells them to meet him at the Marlings' house tonight, and he will prove it to them both. With his aunt and uncle out shooting photos all night, he breaks out of his room and makes his way to the spot described by Sean the day prior.
Fallen tree.
Now, I must say, Alex is one of the stupidest kids I've ever seen. If I saw what he saw the night before, I would be boarding up every window in the damn house. Alex arrives at the creek and gets his camera set up and ready. Then, the episode hits us with one of the most annoying cliches in filmmaking.
Stay awake.
It's all right. You were dreaming.
Mr. Shine? What are you doing out here?
Hannah told me what happened. She said you were coming back out here again tonight. I couldn't let you face the werewolves alone.
You believe in the werewolves?
Of course I do, Alex. I have to.
Why?
Yes, a dream sequence. And not just once, but twice, back to back. Up earlier than usual, Alex makes his way back home, which leads to a disturbing discovery. So it's revealed that Aunt Marta and Uncle Collins are werewolves, and the Marling house is actually abandoned. I want to say the way it goes about revealing this is so clever. The use of the black and white photos, which in themselves are very disturbing. The way the skin seems to rip off their bodies, leaving this gooey stuff behind. It's extremely unsettling. When Alex comes down for breakfast that morning, I distinctly remember the scene making me feel uncomfortable. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was a mixture of the music, the sound of the whisk, and the unusual camera movements.
Morning, Alex. French toast?
I'm not really hungry.
Oh, come on, Chief. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
You aren't eating?
No thanks. We had a bite last night. So,
I love the attention to detail in this scene. The syrup that is passed to Alex is named Three Little Pigs, and the newspaper showing 3 hunters are missing, alluding to this idea that Aunt Marta and Uncle Collins had killed them or even eaten them. At school later that day, the teacher apologizes for the conversation that was had in class earlier that week. He was hoping it did not scare Alex. Now, during this scene, it is never mentioned or brought up again, but the teacher has the same bandage or cream that Arjun had on his face that helped his mosquito bites heal. It's as if the teacher was out late last night in the woods. Alex convinces Hannah that he wants to try to destroy the skins in order to save his aunt and uncle from the curse. She agrees, and they sneak into the Marling house shortly before sundown in search of the skins. After looking for a few moments, they find the skins in the closet and shove them into garbage bags. As they do so, Hannah notices Aunt Marta and Uncle Collins making their way over to the Marling house to change into their skins for the night. They barely escape unnoticed through the window, and the aunt and uncle begin to freak out as they realize their skins are missing. Alex takes the skins into an open field and starts to dig a hole where he will bury them. With the moon rising and the sun setting, Hannah gets nervous and states that she can no longer do this. Alex is confused and claims that it's almost over and for her to stay. Hannah tells him that it will never be over and runs into the woods back home. With the hole almost finished, Alex starts to hear branches breaking in the bushes next to him. He slowly approaches with his shovel raised and then is scared by Sean and Arjun dressed up in wolf suits. He tells them that he has no time for their games, and as the two stand next to the garbage bags, wolf hands bust out and grab the two by their ankles. They scream and run away scared. It is clear that these wolf skins are alive, but not strong enough to be independent. They need a host. Alex kicks the bag into the hole and begins to bury them. From the woods, a miserable and weak Aunt Marta and Uncle Collins beg Alex to give them back their skins.
Where are our skins?
Give us back our skins.
They are cold and delusional. The skins then pull themselves halfway out the hole and are desperate to be reunited with their host. Alex tackles his aunt and uncle to the ground. The wolf skins start to cry out, and as the moon is at its highest, these skins just don't melt away or burn up. They freaking explode. I remember as a kid, I was totally caught off guard by this. It's like Alex threw a grenade and is like tackling his friends or family to the ground. Aunt Marta and Uncle Collins are instantly relieved and are free from this curse. They laugh and hug it out while looking at the fire. Now, like I had mentioned, it wouldn't be a Goosebumps story if there was no twist at the end. The next day, Alex and his uncle are looking over some photos that he had taken that week. Alex is a little let down that he didn't get to capture anything scary, but Uncle Collins assures him that he will get something eventually. I mean, he had plenty of chances to capture a photo of something scary. I don't know what happened to those photos that he got when his aunt and uncle were changing out of the skins. He might not have had film in the camera, but I don't know. He missed his chance. His uncle leaves the room and Alex is left on his own. He starts to take a closer look at a few of the photos he has hanging and notices something in the bottom right corner of one of them.
What the? Hannah?
look who's here.
Hi, Alex.
What's the matter? I told you I don't bite.
Now, when I was a kid, this ending left me creeped out. The way that it goes about revealing that Hannah is a werewolf is so creepy. There's just something about old photos that's unnerving. The fact that you can just barely recognize a figure or shape sometimes. It's one of the reasons why Lake Mungo is such a scary movie. Before I end this, I wanted to leave you with a few final thoughts about the episode. Like the majority of the Goosebumps episodes, they stayed very true to their book versions. However, there are a few main points that the TV show changes from the book. In the book version, it is Halloween night, and Hannah and Alex put on these werewolf skins to hide them from his aunt and uncle. In the book, the curse does not have these skins blow up like a freaking bomb. Instead, the curse like wears off, I guess. It's a little less anticlimactic. After they had been running and hiding from Aunt March and Uncle Collins, the curse is broken, and everybody cheers and it's a good time. And then they go back to the Marling house to return the skins because I guess they're just going to drop them off where they found them. Still dressed up in the werewolf skins, Alex and Hannah make their way into the Marling house, and Alex discovers that there's a third skin still in the closet. He starts to question Hannah that how is this possible? And then Hannah from behind him says, she never changed into a skin. She had her own skin. And then she jumps on Alex and bares her teeth into his chest. As a kid, I always took this as Hannah eats Alex, or Hannah kills Alex, or maybe he just gets infected. But I like the idea in the book that Hannah never changes into a skin. Instead, she has her own skin. I also like in the TV show that Alex survives, and it is very nerve-wracking that right when he realizes that she is a werewolf, she comes in the door and she says her quote when she first met him. "What's wrong? I told you I don't bite." I think that's kind of like a little nudge at the books, because at the end of the book, she does bite Alex, but instead at the end of this book, or at the end of this episode, she's telling Alex that she doesn't bite. So maybe that's like a little cheeky callback, I don't know. Like I had mentioned earlier, this episode leaves so much up in the air and has several mysteries. Does Hannah have a family? We never see her parents, but are told that her brother ran away. Did her brother bite her and that's why she's a werewolf? Or was she the wolf that bit him? And did she kill him? And what's up with that teacher having that cream on his face? Was that second dream Alex had really a dream? Who was the person that infected Aunt Marta and Uncle Collins? Was it Hannah? And then again, I just want to mention all the little details that this episode had in it. Even going back and editing this video, I caught so many small little things that I never noticed. The bottle that Alex puts on top of his doorknob to let him know when someone opens his door is named Wolf Bites. Werewolf Skins does a great job at building up tension, and it leaves you on the edge of your seat throughout the episode. And when the episode is over, you're left with many questions. And I love this about TV shows and movies. When it's over, you can use your own imagination to piece together things that you think might have happened. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know it was a bit long and a little different from what I usually do. I mean, most videos I post are different. I don't really have a very specific category that my videos fall into. So if you guys would like me to talk about more Goosebumps episodes, I would love to. I have been thinking about talking about Welcome to Dead House. Night of the Living Dummy Part 3 is one of my favorite episodes, like I had mentioned, and I feel like I could give a good review on that one. So again, just drop your thoughts in the comments and recommend to me what I should do next. Until then, guys, I'll see you later, and